Sorry to Bother You is a 2018 dystopian sci-fi satire of the kind we don't see much of anymore, because most of our go-to examples have been embalmed and pinned up to boards like butterflies. It's a 1984 for 2018. A snapshot of the 21st century's brave new world and the true heir to Terry Gilliam's Brazil. Now that 30 years of trying to make a Don Quixote movie have officially driven Terry Gilliam insane. Seriously, some Warlock Cervantes fan must have laid a curse on that book and anybody who tries to adapt it. Similar to the curse Alan Moore laid on his work after From Hell and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen got turned into shitty movies. But for once, we're not talking about comic book movies. We're talking about the one theatrical film I saw last year that I can comfortably call great, without 20 minutes of waffling qualifications. You should see it if you haven't. Like, right now. And if you have, you should join up or form your own union and unite with the rest of us in solidarity. We have literally nothing to lose. Not even our chains. We sold those for scrap so we could have gas money to get to our shitty jobs on time. That's the other reason we haven't seen as many dystopian sci-fi satires as we once did. The world we're living in is a dystopian sci-fi satire in itself. A demented game show host is president of my country at a time when we're fighting 7 wars. That we know of. And completely ignoring the 8th war we should be fighting against the weather itself. Unless we're the 1% of the 1% of the 1%, we haven't seen a real raise in 40 years. Our jobs, assuming we have them, universally suck, and the stuff we can buy with the money we get from our jobs just keeps getting worse every year. Movies, well, big-time blockbuster franchise films, so 90% of the movies that people talk about are commercials for their own tie-in merchandise. TV shows are filmed on better cameras, but that didn't upgrade the writing quality, it just made everyone buy new TVs. And video games, or at least big franchise video games, so 90% of the video games anyone talks about, are delivery systems for their own online casinos, where you can use real money to buy fake money to gamble on a chance to win a sweet paint job for your fake gun. Though with your luck, it's probably going to turn out to be something like gray. Ooh, gray. Our cups runneth over with suckage. And how the hell is a body supposed to reasonably satirize all that? Most of it's not even funny, just aggressively, stupidly absurd. But, then again, pile on enough absurdities and they start to form an avalanche, and those are always funny. Take job interviews. The lower down you go into the hell that is the sales industry, the more of a farce they become. Just once, I'd like one of my future managers to say something like, "I don't care if you've got experience for this, I'll hire damn near anybody." The moment that happened, in the first scene of this film, I knew, this one's a keeper. Somebody's been there. Sorry to Bother You is the story of Cassius, of course, Cash Green. Just a dude from Oakland trying to get by in our slow-motion apocalypse. Maybe move out of his uncle's garage so he and his girlfriend Detroit can get it on without the automatic doors exposing them. He joins the telemarketing firm Regal View, and eventually has some success selling encyclopedias to whoever's dumb enough to buy them in 2019? Keep him for bookshelf ballast, Chief. He finds this success by discovering his white voice, overdubbed by David Cross. As an older co-worker, Langston, of course, explains to him, it's not really a white voice. It's what they wish they sounded like. What they think they're supposed to sound like. As in, "Hi, this is Dave," with some bullshit company that went bankrupt in the early 2000s. "Sorry to bother you, but I'm just giving you a quick call to help save you a boatload of money on your long-distance phone service." Ugh. Ugh. Blah. Sorry. Flashbacks. This gets Cash a promotion to the top floor, where Regal View sells I Can't Believe It's Not Slave Labor, provided by their #1 client, Worry Free. Worry-free is the omni-consumer products of this movie's dimension. If you crossed OCP with Amazon's warehouses. Led, as many OCPs are these days, by a coked-up Silicon Valley shithead named Steve Lift, played wonderfully by one-time Lone Ranger Armie Hammer. Lift is like a cross between Steve Jobs, if Jobs had had an actual personality, and Richard Branson, if Richard Branson hadn't run out of ideas in the mid-'80s. Lift has a plan to increase the productivity of his ever-growing workforce by decreasing their humanity. And he makes the mistake of sharing this grand plan with Cash. So it's up to Cash to stop it, provided he can find anyone who'll believe him, or who even cares. That's the spoiler-free elevator pitch version of the movie, but if you know me, you know I care about spoilers as much as most people care about ants on their countertops. There was a bit early on where Cash goes into the VIP room of a local low-rent club. There's no room to sit down, there's no one to talk to, he gets a drink spilled on him, and he still comes out saying, "That's some baller shit." That is a massive spoiler for the entire rest of the movie, but it's the kind of spoiler most of us used to call foreshadowing. So, fair warning and last chance. Go see this movie, because I'm about to talk about it. But the best thing about dystopian sci-fi satires is you can indict pretty much every level of your society and all of its bullshit in one big go. Most of our society's bullshit revolves around creating buzz, or hype, and has fuck all to do with any other goal. The actual goal is to make more money for people who are already rich. But, in spite of everything, the rich are still squeamish about saying this out loud. Instead, they and their functionaries, what we call managers, like to dress everything up in the language of warfare or organized crime in order to make stupid bullshit sound at least a little bit cool. We have to bag and tag our sales prospects like we're all a bunch of Chris Kyles. But on the other hand, we also have to pretend that our workplaces are just one big happy family. And asking for a raise is as gauche as asking for more allowance money on a day that isn't your birthday. Our managers would argue that social capital is more important anyway, because of course they would. They're managers. They got out of the sales game as soon as fucking possible, and I don't blame any one of them. But everything old is new again, which is why mercenary armies and legal slavery are making such big comebacks. Bad as before, but twice as stupid, drenched in twee slogans, like vampires that sparkle. Stop worrying and get worry-free, the commercial for our villain's company says. Because when your only other options are telemarketer, or sign twirler, or charge your family members rent so you can pay the mortgage on your overvalued house until the bank just decides to seize it from you anyway, the evil voices in your head start to chatter about 3 hots and a cot, like Cash's uncle says, like we all used to say, about prison. And somewhere Foucault's ghost is going, "I told you so," and everybody's telling him to shut the fuck up, because nobody likes him. Where even is it? Oh, over there. Way over there. Fuck it. Take it from someone who was a telemarketer while his girlfriend was a sign twirler. The need to escape your horrible grinding material circumstances eventually destroys everything in its path. Working frontline sales, see, even I slip into the martial language, is an exercise in constant humiliation. As such, the film's illustration of it, with Cash literally dropping into the lives of total strangers, is spot on and incredibly well conceived. Cold calling catches people at their most intimate moments, and either they hang up on you immediately, or they start telling you all about the everyday horrors of their lives. Here's a person so obviously and desperately aching for a single undiluted moment of human connection that they'll start telling you, a complete stranger, totally unbidden, about, say, their husband's insanely expensive cancer treatments, And you'll have no choice but to stick to the script. Because, of course, your managers are constantly listening in. It's disgusting and degrading, and you feel like an asshole doing it, because you are. You've been turned into one by what you tell yourself is necessity. It isn't. It's just the dictates of our incredibly awful system. It's no wonder sociopathic bastards rule everything around us, and that we are constantly pressured to become sociopathic bastards in order to get ahead. I finally feel like I'm good at something, Cash says about halfway through. Whether you're good at something worthwhile doesn't even enter into it. Most of the time you're not even allowed to think about it until it's too late. And that's why I quit everything in 2011 and tried to become internet famous. In the sales trenches, see, there it is again, Cash meets union organizer Squeeze. And that's the most science-fictional thing in this film. During my 10-plus years doing Regal View level work, union organizing existed in a limbo, somewhere between fondly hoped-for dream and literal joke. Gee, this sucks, we'd say, clustered around the smokers' ghetto outside the building. We should form a union. Ha ha ha. The fact everyone is not summarily fired the moment they stage their first protest is the second most science-fictional thing in this film. Instead, Cash is promoted. And there's the meritocracy idiots keep telling you about. Kick the talented people upstairs before they start giving the rest of us proles any bright ideas. Sure, you'll abandon all of your friends to drudgery and miserable toil, but hey, at least you get to drink on the job. A lot of on-the-clock drinking on the top floor, with the other power callers. Granted, the extra money may help you pay off some family debt and get a space that's all your own. But even that, relatively minuscule, once taken for granted amount of success will alienate you from some of your former friends and significant others. It is inevitable. I'm trying to get paid, Cash says the first time he crosses a picket line. We're all trying to get paid, Squeeze retorts. And that is the entire history of the working class in miniature. If we don't all hang together, we will most assuredly hang separately. Contrast Cash with Winston from 1984, Sam from Brazil, and Guy protagonist. Okay, that's not his actual name, but his first name really is Guy, from Fahrenheit 451. Bernard from Brave New World is a coward and a narc, so fuck him. All four of them begin as low-level drones in the systems they're trapped in. Guy is a loyal enforcer, at first, while Winston and Sam know how fucked they are, thanks to their positions as shit government employees. The three of them can only impotently rail against their systems in the utmost privacy, or what they think is privacy. Cash, on the other hand, has freedom of speech, TMCR, for all the good it does him. He's a survivor, just trying to get along, and his total lack of ideology allows Sorry to Bother You to dramatize how his system, our current system, turns even the most well-meaning of us into Winstons, Sams, and Guys. All three of them begin their radicalization out of what they mistake for love, because they lived in fascist bureaucracies that had legislated love out of existence long before their stories began, leaving them nothing to fall back on but their own hormones. At least Cash starts things out in a stable relationship. But his lack of awareness of how the system's changing him strains that past the breaking point. He becomes a bourgeois bastard. The most annoying kind of person to live with, because all they genuinely care about is trying to get paid. Detroit, on the other hand, is a parable of the arts. We artists, and yes, I'm still pretentious enough to count myself among them, even though all I do is this, have been trying to shock the bourgeoisie out of their drone-like complacency for going on 200 years. It's been loads of laughs, but the sad fact is, all it really seems to do is make them more reactionary. Provided the reaction is dressed up in the right local brand signifiers. In my case, it'd be dressed in an American flag and waving a cross around. And we're supposed to count ourselves lucky when the cross isn't on fire. This, in turn, makes us try to shock them even harder, with increasingly self-defeating and occasionally self-destructive pieces. Usually riffing on Marina Abramovich's Rhythm Zero. Oh, but this time I'll recite excerpts from The Last Dragon while people throw shit at me. That, and the size of your audience, will be all that separates your avant-garde performance art piece from the sadistic game show everyone in this movie's universe watches every night. I got the shit kicked out of me. Even the avant-garde is drowning in a ruinous nostalgia for a completely imagined past. I mean, you want to be nostalgic about the 70s? What the fuck is this, the 1990s? Still? Ugh. Even if you get big, what's the point? The top of our socioeconomic heap is overrun with narcissistic dipshits. So bored with their world-traveling, orgy-filled lives that their fondest wish, apart from making more money, obviously, appears to be getting away with saying the N-word in public. And they have the gall to call themselves rational. This isn't irrational, they'll say about their latest dumbass plan, whether it's cars with autopilots that can't stay between two straight lines, blood testing machines that somehow don't draw blood, turning people into horses so they can lift more boxes per minute, or turning your best salesman into a horse person so he can be your controlled opposition. The Matrix, which created its own controlled opposition to paper over a systemic flaw they never actually solved, was also eminently rational in its own solipsistic, dumbass way. That's the problem with rationalism. These days, most people use it as a synonym for whatever they already believe. There's a book about this called Voltaire's Bastards by John Ralston Saul. Here's a not at all random quote. Almost without exception, they are bullies. Primarily, this appears to be intellectual intimidation, combined with the use of secrecy and systems manipulation. It is used to frighten people on the practical level of their incomes, pensions, and careers. And here's another from a little later. The technocrats are hedonists of power. Their obsession with structures and their inability or unwillingness to link these to the public good make this power an abstract force. A force that works, more often than not, at cross purposes with the real needs of a painfully real world. But please, feel free to write me a novel-length comment about how you just know Elon Musk is going to save us all because he watches the same cartoon shows you do. Eminently rational. But the waiting around for a prophesied savior is really just the other side of all of this pointless conspiracy theorizing going around these days. Most of the creeptastic shit in our world goes on right out in the open. No need to follow any breadcrumbs, down any rabbit holes, towards any anime Nazi bulletin boards. The rich stopped caring a long time ago. Secure that their money can and will let them get away with whatever. You can catch them committing their various crimes against humanity on video, and all your expose will do is make their stock rise faster. The one thing, the only thing that'll even begin to address all of this is if we can all manage to unite into an overwhelming revolutionary force for good. So, of course, the entirety of our society is arranged specifically to prevent this. I'm not saying it'll be easy. Even if we do manage to break through the lifetime's worth of propaganda most people have absorbed without even really thinking about it, the cops will beat us down the moment we show up in public. Or they'll stand by and let their fascist friends do it for them. But guess what? That's already kind of happening. Even in my own fair city of roses and water. Like I said, we're ruled over by complete dumbasses and are very quickly running out of things to lose. except our illusions that we live in a normal, functional society. Those are the hardest to give up. Which is why artists keep feeling the need to couch their society-level critiques in dystopian sci-fi fantasy films. They've always been more about the year they were made in than the year they depict. The punchline here being, writer-director Boots Riley finished this script in 2012, and we're only just seeing the movie now. It took so long because the independent movie funding scene, insofar as it ever existed, has been massively hollowed out by corporate consolidation, just like everything else, leading to a world where all the major entertainment monopolies want to be Netflix, and Netflix wants to be Fortnite. All of which is obviously bad, but it's hard to see the universe where this came out in 2012 being all that much better. I mean, I remember 2012, and we were all pretty fucking dumb back then. Had this film come out in 2012, I'm pretty sure it would have either been purposefully misconstrued, or worse, ignored to death. In a way, it kind of was. After Boots Riley finished the script, he made an album that's also titled Sorry to Bother You, which I didn't hear a single blessed note of until last year when this movie came out. Again, you fail me, Internet. So I had to do this to give Riley, and indeed everyone who worked on this film, the props that they so rightly deserve. Don't let this one fall down the memory hole, kids. See Sorry to Bother You, the best film of 2018. It's good because it's true. Maybe the artist is being literal. God, putting a line like that in there, that's like red meat to a guy like me. I'm just like, okay, Riley, I see you. Good job. If you liked this video, hit the like button and the subscribe button. And if you really liked this video, consider supporting the show on Patreon. And join the ranks of fine people like Mr. Hootie Dean, Detective Steve, The After Movie Diner, and Stu G. Sorry this one took so long. Wanted to get it right. The next one will be quicker and easier. We'll be back on our usual bullshit.